And again, welcome to the Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for August 14th, 2014. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens? Here. Kammerer?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ranke?
Here.
Shipman?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. A couple items on the agenda today under Planning and Zoning fall under Chairman Kammerer.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have a couple of things. The first would be the proposed IDOT Route 59 and Stearns Road intersection improvements, of which I can read a little bit here, but I could also just ask to turn this over to Jim and let him follow up and go ahead and present this, I suppose, save a little time.
Thank you, Trustee Kammerer. Tonight we have IDOT's staff, Kimberly Murphy, who is handling the in programming, project engineer manager for IDOT, Teresa Pelletier, project manager for Clark Dietz, the design consulting firm, Stacy Dogalowski, and design engineer Josh Harris. They are here to present the proposed intersection improvements for the intersection of Route 59 and Stearns Road. We also have our traffic consulting engineer, Brent Coulter, here, and they will go over the design that's in your packet and some of the animated turn lanes or turn movements that are proposed for the project and be available to answer any of your questions. So Josh, who is the design engineer, is going to come up here and take it away. Show us the plans.
Thanks, Jim. All right, so we kind of know this area. This is Illinois 59 and Stearns Road. Illinois 59, Route 59 is an SRA route. It runs north to south. This map is showing north being to the right, just so everybody knows. Stearns Road is also an SRA route and under the jurisdiction of DuPage County. Both roads are Class 2 truck routes, and in this project area, both commercial and residential land uses are next to the project. We found that looking at the traffic volumes in this area, that the existing traffic needs more traffic lanes. It's a different lane configuration. Okay. The existing traffic requires a different lane configuration or more capacity for the roadway. It also requires the storage lanes to be lengthened in this area, and we also found that the highest crash type was rear ends, which is normally found in on a roadway that is over capacity or needs just a little bit more of an improvement in the area. So the purpose of this proposed improvements was to reduce congestion and improve safety for both pedestrians and vehicles in the area. And funds were found to add lanes, modernize the existing traffic signal, and install and replace the pedestrian and bicycle facilities in the area. So I'm just going to run through the proposed improvement pretty quickly. Save you guys a little bit of time. This is the south leg. Again, the north arrow, north is to the right. It's near Apple Valley Drive right here. The proposed improvements match in near Apple Valley. There's a pedestrian facility on the east side of Route 59, which is the bike path. It's an 8-foot bike path, and then you have. Do you
think you could slide this way a little bit so it's kind of projecting through the microphone? Because we're having a little bit of trouble. Yeah, that might be better for us.
Is that better? Sorry about that. You have a 5-foot sidewalk on the west side, and then an 8-foot bike path on the east side of Illinois 59. The bike path runs from Apple Valley up to just south of, I think it's Norwood, and then the sidewalk does the same, but it goes to the commercial driveway just south of Norwood. on the west side of Illinois 59. The turn lanes pretty much stay the same near Apple Valley, and a dual left turn lane starts right here, which I'll go to the next slide. This again is the south leg here. Dual left turn lanes are on the south leg, the north leg, the east leg, and the west leg. All 4 approaches now have dual lefts, and all approaches now have right-hand turn lanes at the intersection. Again, this is to provide a safer travel route for the vehicles to make their movements, and also decrease the rear-end collisions that are happening in the area. On all 4 approaches, there are crosswalks either for like a bike path or sidewalks. There's a sidewalk on the south side of Stearns Road, only on the east side, and a bike path that goes from Braintree to all the way to the western limits of them.
Yes, sir, just, I know you're in trouble hearing it, but is there going to be a pedestrian or a sidewalk from the south side of Stearns onto the commercial property that will take pedestrians out of that driveway?
Which leg?
From here to the shopping center.
Okay, so there is an 8-foot bike path on the east side of Illinois 59 that runs the entire project length.
Okay.
There's a sidewalk on the west side of Illinois 59 that runs the entire project length.
Okay.
On the east leg, there is a sidewalk on the south side of Stearns Road.
Okay.
And then there's a bike path that runs from the eastern limit all the way to the western limit of this project
I'm not explaining myself.
on the north side.
The turn-in right next to, it's not to 59 yet, it's still east of 59. The turn-in to the shopping center. Is there a sidewalk planned there that will take pedestrians out of that turn-in? There is no sidewalk there now.
On the south side of Stearns Road on the west.
You're talking about West Suburban
I'm
Bank.
talking about the turn-in.
By the bank.
By the
to
bank.
shopping center.
But
Not, I'll ask you after the meeting.
Okay.
I think if you were walking west on Stearns Bike Path right now, right, can you turn on a sidewalk and walk into the Walgreens Shopping Center? Is that the question?
yeah, the other side. We're
No.
down. We're
Oh,
down.
on the other side.
It's
Okay.
on the east side.
Yeah, I think there is one there.
Southeast side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Southeast side.
There's going to, there's,
To turn into the parking lot to the shopping center on the southeast corner of 59
Gotcha.
and Stearns.
From the bank all the way to the shopping center.
Do you have perhaps a larger photograph that we can look at? The graph really doesn't help us.
Something with a little less,
Right there.
a little less cluttered with the,
Right there.
Jim, you know where I want to
And then
there is a sidewalk there.
because I won't,
Does it go to the,
I'm not
to
going
the
to go for
property?
this unless we have a pedestrian sidewalk there.
Okay.
There is a sidewalk there.
Okay, and it goes from 59 all the way east to the shopping center?
Yes. it
That's
goes
what,
to
that's
the
what she's
market.
asking.
It matches into the existing
Okay.
sidewalk on that leg.
Okay.
As I was explaining, every leg has a dual left and a right-hand turn lane. And we just went over all the pedestrian facilities. The north leg, just past the intersection on Illinois 59. Again, we're keeping the left-hand turn lane that's existing. It's just adjusting it just a little bit. And we're still allowing full access past the intersection. On the west leg, with north arrow up, same thing. We're allowing the same left-hand turn, just adjusting it, and with full access at Sayre Road. This is the only leg, the western leg, that we are providing an opening within the median to provide access to the two commercial driveways. All the other legs have raised median, and we are providing a U-turn movement outside the intersection and at the intersection, which I'll get to. And then this is the eastern leg, again, where it's full access at Braintree. You have the right-hand turn lane and the left-hand turn, which will allow the U-turns.
This slide actually shows that sidewalk a little better. If you can see it right there's the driveway.
About the same to me.
I've been looking at these for a while.
We don't have a better photo?
Valerie, you should have handed out the micros.
I know.
You don't have better slides, do you, by chance? Color?
I can go through all these right
A little
afterwards.
less cluttered with all the other graphics and things, just pointing out what the essentials are that you're going to be changing?
I can send something to you guys if you need that.
Probably be helpful.
As I was talking about the turning movements.
Again, when you're talking, you have to go to that microphone. Or do we have the handheld one?
Do we have a hand microphone, Scott?
That's a good idea.
That's when your voice is going that way. We can't hear you at all.
Yes, very good.
All right, so you have the turning movements as I was discussing. This just shows that a full truck can make the turn with like a delivery truck, like a UPS truck, something like that, which is standard for dual left turns. This also shows the truck making the right-hand turn.
If you could hold that slide for just 1 second.
Sure.
Actually, maybe for 2 or 3 seconds. And dumb it down for me. Point to me what's going to be new on this. This is our dream intersection, right?
Pretty much.
Okay. Point to me what's going to be new on there compared to what's there today.
All right, so existing right now, you have a one left turn lane and one right-hand turn lane on the south leg. You have one left here, one left here, and one left here.
Okay.
So we're adding one left turn lane to the southern approach. We're adding one left turn lane to the eastern approach and a right-hand turn lane. You're adding a right to the northern approach and a left to the northern approach. And then you're adding a right to the western approach and a left to the western approach.
So essentially we're adding a left turn lane and a right turn lane to everything except for what you call the southern approach or what I call northbound 59.
Correct.
All right. And everything else is going to get the addition of 2 lanes, a right turn lane and a left turn lane.
Correct.
Okay. That dumbs it down for me where I can kind of understand it.
All of these are just showing that the same movements can happen. I was going to show a video just after this to show that the U-turns can actually be provided. These are just basically showing the outline of the vehicle, of what's going to happen, basically their movement, and how that they're not going to conflict with any of the other movements in the area.
Okay.
These are the outside the intersection, just to show that the U-turns can happen on the north leg and the south leg. We're planning for these to be possible. I don't think that they're needed in all circumstances, but they are designed and planned for. And then this kind of shows, this is actually very dark, the U-turn movements along the design.
And those vehicles won't be there, so the cars won't be crashing into them.
And the chief will be okay with us running across the median? Like the grass on both sides? Okay. Good.
Now, it looks like, just even on that slide, we're going to be taking which intersection, I mean, I know which intersection that is. Which way is north? To the right?
This north is straight up, and this is the west leg, or eastbound.
So
Stearns.
up and to the left is the northwest corner. That's where the VP Amico is, right?
Yes.
So just looking at that, everything from that blue line is going to need to be taken over as roadway.
Correct.
all that's going to become new roadway, and what's left will be easement.
Yeah, yes.
So the Walgreens we just passed, which they're building, they're going to have to readjust now?
We took into account their site plan. There's a small adjustment to their parking lot, but it doesn't, I don't think it takes away any parking spaces. It may take one, it takes 2 parking spaces.
How about its proximity to the roadway, the building's proximity to the roadway?
It's, I think it's still under, I think you guys actually passed a resolution saying that it was fine where it was. The roadway is not moving closer other than at the,
The little ones are hard for me to see. I'm sorry.
let's see.
Let's just be honest, Trustee Shimon, the ones are worthless.
So if we were to look at that one, I don't know if you have the right lines in there, but kind of what is there today and what's the proposed, give or take?
Talking about like right in here.
Yeah, where because the Walgreens to the upper right there, right?
Right.
Okay. So how much are we going to be encroaching on what's currently there? In other words, how much more of the easement are we talking about taking?
I don't have the numbers offhand. They'll be on. Probably something around 10 feet or so, maybe a little bit more for an easement
10 additional feet?
from the existing right-of-way.
If you go to the air photo with the traffic movements, it probably shows that a little better.
Talking about this?
No, the little movie, but just
The ghost car.
the animation, but for that kind of. So not that one,
Yeah, I don't,
not that one.
I know what you're talking about.
Going,
Is it that one?
that one there.
No, that was south.
I don't
That's
want
not
to
it
assume,
either.
so I'll ask. They will have U-turns, exterior only, right?
There are
You don't want the second left hand doing a U-turn.
Correct.
Okay. Cause more trouble.
I have a question. Jim, I may need you to translate for me, but I'm trying to get the point across that TL was asking earlier. The egress from Walgreens, if you walk directly across, you're at the break by the veterinarian that's there?
Yes.
Is there a walk across there to get from one
No.
shopping? That's what TL's asking for.
I thought she was talking, there's going to be a barrier between, to put those dual lefts, so there's a median, there won't be a walkway across
Okay.
the street.
So you either
The walkway's going to be at the intersection of 59.
59, or you
Yeah.
go down to Braintree.
Or down the Braintree. You'll have to be, yes.
Are you listening? The crosswalk is going to be at 59. There'll be a divider where you're talking, but there is a walk across at Braintree, so there is nothing where you're asking.
You know, for the sake of expediency,
At the end of Braintree, to go to...
Yeah, Yes, there is a crosswalk there.
yeah,
Go
for-
to Remax,
what's his
you
name?
gotta walk into the turn lane with all the cars.
You won't be able to.
Yeah, there's no crosswalk in the middle. It's a,
How do I get?
Yeah, it's at the limit of our.
I think they're bringing you a map, TL.
We
You have to
match in
jump over
right
them.
in here, so we-
TL, they're bringing you a map.
No, it's only on these
Love to see it.
approaches.
yeah.
Ooh, and it's big.
So another question.
So this
You
is
have two gas
current.
stations there.
Yes,
Will this affect where they pump and put gas in? Not the cars, but into the ground with the tankers?
no, we
Everything's-
we designed
the yellow's
everything not to impact those.
So there's going to be no additional cost for them?
It shouldn't. We did redesign the driveways for those because of the widening of the road.
Okay.
but right now we are planning on not
And they don't
impacting
have
it.
to pay anything.
I wouldn't know.
I think we're kind of getting off track a little bit here, and for the sake of expediency and not have, we got other things we want to get through tonight, I'm going to ask that perhaps you could refine your slide presentation and come back with some different perspectives other than these microscopic slides that you presented so far, and perhaps bring us a different presentation. Yes, T.O.?
Well, I would respectfully request that what they're doing now is asking a go-ahead on the concept, and I think the concept is great. I live there, you do too.
I do too.
So any improvements that can be made for the folks in that neighborhood, I think are great. I think maybe just to speed it up a little bit, if they can, we're going to refer to the Plan Commission anyway.
Sure.
And request that they have those ready for the Plan Commission, which we can then review at our village board meetings.
Not going to the Plan Commission. It's not going. Not going to the Plan Commission.
This is an informational meeting that IDOT is presenting before they get into a more of a definitive design. There is,
Never mind.
we're just providing input into the design work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it would be way more beneficial for everybody involved if we actually, I've seen these in big size, so I understand exactly what he's talking about, but I couldn't follow along with this
This
slide.
is good.
Yeah, that's a good one. The one
This
Yeah.
is what was requested.
a few things that I know that I've been being we're informational here. I've been privy to some issues with business owners in that mall with access to the mall. That's difficult. Anybody that runs a business now, the easier you can get in, especially a quick, stop in, grab a gallon of milk type business. If you have to go around the block to do that, it's tricky. So what are the other? Did you guys come up with any other options to try to allow people to get in and out of that area?
Which, the northeast?
Well, somebody driving up Stearns goes in. When they come out, they've got to go do the U-turn and go the other direction. So, So if I go in, my wife does this all the time. I'll share something with you. She'll drive up to Walgreens, and believe me, I told the administrator when I was looking at these plans, if there was a 2-foot barrier and there's a sale going on, she'd probably drive over it anyway. But she goes up to Walgreens, and at this point, she just comes right out of the shopping center and goes back the other direction, right? And this plan, she's going to be going westbound on Stearns. She can go into Walgreens, and she's going to have to get used to going out the back side, go to the intersection of Stearns and 59, and come that direction. Yeah. Or make the U-turn. Yeah. So
that's true. The one thing to point out is that it is a safer movement to make those movements outside of the intersection instead of trying to cross traffic in that way.
Because the lights are going to be green a little bit longer to allow that flow.
Correct.
I think for me with this, and I'll be happy to pass it down to anybody else, I have a little better understanding of what you're talking about now. I appreciate that. So I guess in the idea of expediency too,
We could ask them for, the 11 by 17s of all those and then just bring it back and let you see that bigger enlarged drawing of it.
I believe, did we have the engineer here as well, our traffic engineer here
Our
as well?
traffic consultant, Brent Coulter's here, if you have any questions of him. He's been looking at these proposed layouts.
Okay, perhaps when he's done with his, I don't know if we'd like to hear from him as well, or it's your committee.
Well, yes, I guess we could hear from anybody who's got positive input.
One more question for informational purposes. Have you, has IDOT ever put together a scenario where they'll cut that curb in order to get into the business from, see in this situation, if I'm coming across Stearns, cross 59, and I want to turn left into the Walgreens Shopping Center, I have to get used to turning left across Stearns, go in the top side of 59. Have you ever had a situation where you have something similar like this, where you cut the curb in that entrance area and just allow specific times when certain traffic can take lefts and rights?
I wouldn't know IDOT policy, so I would have to,
I'm Kimberly Murphy with Illinois Department of Transportation. I think the question is, can we cut the median? And our policy is no in this area because you're going to be cutting it where the left turners are storing. If it was a little bit further to the east, we might be able to do it, but not in this situation.
So that's one portion of it. So I understand what you're saying. It'd back up onto 59 and you'd have a problem when they're trying to turn left into there, right?
Yes.
Yes. So what about when you're leaving the shopping center, have that curb cut so when they're coming out, they can come out and go left?
Well, I would actually prefer the other scenario where you can have a 3/4 access. But actually in this situation, neither one would be possible. Okay. And as Josh said, making the U-turn is actually a safer maneuver because the conflict points are reduced.
And what kind of studies do you have that say that doesn't reduce business in the malls?
Well, FHWA has done some studies where they controlled access to safe points where they combine driveways, and it has turned out that generally it is better for business because people feel safer about getting in and out of the business.
I think for informational purposes, that would be good information to have.
We can provide you with that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, continue on.
Thank you.
I believe that's all that I really have to present. If you have any other questions.
How is Braintree affected by this? I don't know if I should be asking this gentleman or you, Jim, or...
That's,
Oh, okay.
I'd let IDOT or our traffic engineer address that.
Oh, I have some questions for our traffic engineer, too. So.
Maybe Brent can come up here. Come up.
Yeah.
And answer some of those questions.
You might be here a while.
Get him some water.
Comfortable here, thank you.
So my question is obviously we're going to be changing the intersection, but there's going to be a lot of residents that live off of Braintree behind that shopping center. They're going to be affected by the traffic flow of people trying to get in and out. One of the things when people are coming out of that shopping center, now they have to make a dedicated right-hand turn to turn around and do a loop and come back and go westbound. They're not going to do that. They're going to go down to Norwood, and they're going to cut back down through Braintree, and then they're going to make a left-hand turn. And it's just not fair to those residents as far as I can see. And so I'm wondering how we're thinking about and planning for that to counteract that traffic flow, because it's going to happen if we don't do something about it right now.
Well, I've been asked by staff as part of our review and coordination of this project to take a closer look at Braintree and the role it plays, not only in serving the residents who live along Braintree, but traffic that may cut through from Stearns to the shopping center or to Route 59. So literally, I've just started that process, and I don't have any answers for you tonight. But we are, within the next couple of weeks, going to be looking into traffic movements, traffic patterns at different times of the day, the morning peak, the evening peak, the middle of the day, to see exactly what's happening so we understand what's going on, as well as the residents seem to understand. And so that's just started and is in progress. Let me explain a little bit about the intersection that serves Brewster Creek on Stearns Road. Do any of you have any idea how close that is to Route 59 in feet? It's just a little over 90 feet right now. When they do the widening that they're proposing to do at this intersection to accommodate the dual left turn lanes on Route 59, for example, that distance will shrink even more. So that access will be maybe in the mid 80s in terms of feet of separation from the driveway itself, the nearest point on the driveway, to where you stop on Stearns to wait for the signal at 59. Operationally and from a safety standpoint, that's an issue. When you have a large volume of traffic moving through the intersection and traffic from a local development trying to access the shopping center that close to the intersection. And that's what, that's the from a traffic standpoint, and I'm a traffic engineer, not an economic development specialist, but that's the advantage of the barrier median. What we've tried to do in terms of our initial review with IDOT is ensure that the U-turn movement, which is, by the way, is legal in the state of Illinois, and one exception is the city of Chicago, which has kind of written its own rules and regulations regarding U-turns. But in the state of Illinois, it's legal even near intersections as long as it's safe to do so to make a U-turn. In this particular case, we've asked IDOT to provide the right equipment in terms of signal heads, signal phasing, and operation to make that U-turn easy, user-friendly, convenient, and safe. So, for example, you're in Brewster Creek and you live in a subdivision south of Stearns Road along 59. You would exit with a right turn onto Stearns Road. You'd get into one of the left turn lanes that would be constructed with this project, and you would make a left turn on a green arrow only. The only thing you have to worry about is making the left turn. You don't have to worry about oncoming traffic and finding a gap in that to make that turn. You simply wait for the green arrow to make that turn. And the fact that the Brewster Creek shopping center driveway is so close to 59 means you really don't have to travel too far to get into that left turn lane. It's literally right there on top of the driveway. Now take that same scenario, and let's say you don't live south of Stearns along 59. Let's say you live east of Stearns Road, and you want to go from Brewster Creek back to the east from where you came to access Walgreens or McDonald's or any other of the tenants in the shopping center. You do the same thing. You come out with the right turn, you enter the left turn lanes. In this case, U-turns are only available from the lane closest to the median that would be constructed, so the lane closest to the center line of the roadway. So you would get into that left turn lane, and when the green arrow comes up, instead of turning left and then straight down 59, you simply make your U-turn movement. The same user-friendly condition applies. You make the U-turn. You don't have to worry about oncoming eastbound through traffic on a green ball like you do right now, for example, and you don't have to worry about northbound traffic making a right turn, because that traffic is going to be either warned or required to stop so that the left turn can be made without conflict, the U-turn, I'm sorry. And so those are some of the provisions that we've, as staff, kind of insisted that IDOT incorporate into the plans to make the intersection, again, user-friendly, safe, and available. In this case, we're talking about patrons of the Brewster Creek Shopping Center. There are other options for exiting Brewster Creek. You can use several access points that exist along Route 59, but you have to wait for a gap in traffic. The queues on 59 should be shorter past those intersections as you go north. In other words, the spillback from south to north when the signal is red southbound on Route 59. But the U-turn movement does provide a safe and effective way of getting traffic out of there. For traffic entering the shopping center, if you're coming from the east, it's the same as it always has been, except by adding a right turn lane on on the north side of Stearns Road serving westbound traffic, a couple of things happen. Number one, since we first started looking at the plans, that right turn lane has been lengthened, so it actually extends east of the shopping center access, maybe roughly halfway from the shopping center drive to Braintree. And what that means is that right turn lane will be available a higher percentage of the time than if it were shorter, because the entry point of that right turn lane will be further east than the queues that stack up on Stearns Road going west on Route 59. So that makes access into the shopping center more favorable. It also creates a situation where if you're approaching the intersection and you're going through maybe northbound on Route 59, you don't have to, and if you're near Braintree right now, if you see traffic backed up and you're thinking, oh my gosh, there is no right turn lane, we've got to wait for all this through traffic to go through the intersection, maybe I'll just go up Braintree to Norwood and out that way. That does happen. I mean, I've observed that. We're trying to quantify to what extent that happens in the study I mentioned to you earlier. But the presence of the right turn lane, the fact that for a fairly high percentage of the time during the day it's going to be available for westbound and northbound traffic, and even when it's not, the driver knows that as traffic starts to move, if it is queued beyond the opening to the right turn lane, in a very short amount of time during the peak hours, that traffic will be out of the way and you can access the right turn lane to go north. You may be more inclined to stay on Stearns Road as opposed to using Braintree to cut through that neighborhood. So those are the kinds of details, and you're right. I mean, it's hard to see that on the slides at a distance and at a small scale. But if you take the time, it might be helpful to have a full-size set of plans in the planning office so you can come in at your leisure and take a look at that and see exactly what's going on, and I think it should be more clear to you from that standpoint. But those are some of the provisions that are being made to facilitate access. I think IDOT mentioned on the west leg of Stearns Road, because the access to the shopping center on the north and the Home Depot on the south, there are two driveways that are opposite each other at a common intersection. That's well west of the intersection, and it happens to be at a point where it's the juncture between the taper into the left turn lanes and the actual area of the lane going eastbound, where traffic actually sits and waits for the green arrow to come up to make a turn. So at that location, it's safe for them to provide a mountable median for shopping center traffic to exit and enter. It's a location that is not available on the east side. I'm a technician. I'm an engineer, and my mentor in graduate school I was really impressed with. He came from the Fairfield, Virginia, Washington, D.C. area, where they experienced traffic congestion long before we experienced it here in DuPage County. And he told me that the engineers and the technicians operate at this level, and the elected officials operate up here. There's interaction. I can provide my technical input, and it's up to elected officials to decide the more global concepts and make the decisions that may be a little more tough, related to economic development and other issues. From my standpoint, the proposed project, and especially as it's being refined based on staff comments, is a desirable project. It has a lot of nice capacity and safety features to it. It has the potential to help, in my opinion, alleviate some of the cut-through traffic issues on Braintree, and that's where we are, at least where I am, as staff helping the village review these plans.
Okay. I hope you're correct with the traffic flow, because if you're right, what you're saying, then the rational or logical thing would not be to cut down Braintree and congest that area. But then again, it's hypothetical. you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can tell you that in my experience, and I work in a lot of communities as a traffic engineer, so I see this all the time. At or very close to a major intersection where streets are laid out, local streets or even subdivision collectors laid out so that they are somewhat convenient for someone looking to cut through, the main impetus for cutting through those local or collector streets in residential areas are capacity deficiencies at the main intersection. So I've seen intersections improved to the point where those capacity deficiencies don't exist. The turns that can be provided at the main intersection as opposed to a cut-through route are easier when those major intersection improvements are made. So is it going to be the salvation for that neighborhood? Probably not, but will it have a substantial potential to help alleviate traffic cutting through on Braintree? In my opinion, yes, especially as it relates to avoiding the intersection of Route 59 and Stearns Road.
Very good.
Yeah, I think drivers going westbound on Stearns now just take the right. I've seen it happen. They take the right on Braintree just because it's backed up.
Right.
If it's not backed up,
Right.
it's going to be slower for them to go through that community than it is to go down the intersection and take a right.
Right. So that's the ideal situation, and the better we can make the major intersection in terms of reduced queuing, reduced congestion, access to turn lanes such as the westbound right turn lane we've talked about. I think we've done our job, at least as far as optimizing the proposed IDOT project in terms of its potential benefit to the community in terms of this cut through traffic issue.
Any other questions for IDOT or for?
Wondered.
I would like to see if we can figure this out. If I'm at the Walgreens egress and I need to go east, I have to come out of Walgreens and get into the farthest left turn lane.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to change the lights so that the left turn lane, at a normal intersection, the left turn lane light goes on first to clear that lane,
Mm-hmm.
and then the westbound traffic would continue. I would need both of those to go in order for me to get into the left lane to turn, and I'm not going to have that green light, am I? I'm going to have to wait till the next cycle.
Well, there may be times, especially during the peak hours, and based on the data I've seen, primarily the evening peak hour, where it's not going to be as easy as other times of the day to enter the left turn lane to make your U-turn. That's why I mentioned there are other alternatives available, and which would include access onto Route 59, where U-turns are also possible once you get on 59 at that point. So, it's not a perfect world.
I understand.
If the Brewster Creek access were further away than 80 or 90 feet, we'd have much more to work with, but that's what we have to work with right now. So when I said optimize, I meant it. We're doing our best to make sure that it works as well as it can. It's not going to be 100% panacea for access issues related to the shopping center, but for much of the day, it's going to provide a very nice option for exiting the shopping center.
Plus, you haven't finished your study yet either.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness to me, I really can't answer any questions on Braintree. I can tell you there are three types of traffic on Braintree. There's traffic that's locally oriented. It's going to a home south of Norwood or north of Norwood. That's all part of the same local system. There's traffic that's bypassing the intersection proper of 59 and Stearns. And then there is traffic that is using Braintree, I think particularly to access some of the commercial uses near Norwood, at the north end of the shopping center of Brewster Creek, and then on the commercial area north of Norwood, opposite the Brewster Creek access there. So we're trying to get a handle on when that problem really exists, what the level of volume involved is, how that relates to, there's a relationship between residents perceiving a lot of traffic that they don't think belongs on their street, and their complaints about speeding. So see what's actually going on there, and that's kind of my task, I guess, over the next couple of weeks to.
We
to
welcome your
quantify.
input.
Got an IDOT question.
Thank you.
This design, what's the build time? What's the build time? How long is this going to take?
Something like this would probably take one construction season, so 1 year. It's a widening or surfacing, it's not reconstruction.
I have another question for our engineer. Let's walk across the street for a minute. You know, one of the first things that I had the opportunity to look into as a new trustee was when a bank wanted to open up over at the Home Depot, and there was hours of discussion about the traffic exiting the Home Depot onto Stearns Road or coming out of the parking lot of the other strip mall and the gas station and everything else. In your professional opinion as our engineer, what impact will this redesign have on that disaster over there? So east of Sayre Road, like the entrance to the Home Depot and where the Sonic is and all that.
Well, my focus for most of the time that I've been reviewing the project has been on the east leg and the Braintree shopping center access.
And if the answer is I'm not sure,
I'm not sure.
That's okay for now.
I'm not sure. I can tell you that obviously Stearns Road is DuPage County jurisdiction.
Right.
DuPage County has requested the mountable median at the location that you're talking about.
Okay.
And that's something I think the IDOT is entertaining and at least tentatively is showing in their plans.
So will you be developing an opinion on that as we move along here, or you're saying that's not even a part of what you're going to be doing?
Well, as a traffic engineer, it's not my favorite solution. But
I meant about the intersection as a whole. Will there be improvement compared to what there is now, or
the main in terms of
no, where I'm talking about, over by the Home Depot?
The two shopping center access drives. There's potential for some improvement. I think the fact that at least as I understand it, it's proposed as a mountable median, which provides some physical delineation for vehicles to wait for a left turn. You know, if they're going westbound on Stearns, want to turn into the Home Depot site. West of the intersection, it provides a little safer storage area than may exist right now. The fact that the dual left turn lanes will shorten the queue that exists eastbound on Stearns at 59. And by the way, I've observed that queue spilling out of the existing left turn lane as I've observed on all the other approaches and into the through lanes on Stearns Road. So I think that fact also adds to the potential for improvement. And it's at a location, again, at the juncture between the taper into those left turn lanes and the actual storage, where such a turn, in combination with its separation from Route 59 itself, can be made a little more safely. So
can
it's not an unreasonable request by DuPage County to have that median opening there, and I think I can tell you I do think it would be safer than what exists right now today at that location.
That's probably the important comment I was looking for. Can I summarize your comments by saying it's likely to improve it, it's very unlikely to make it any worse? Is that fair?
I'm trying to think.
That's gray enough.
Thumbs up or down?
In other words,
compared to what happens right now. In other words, if we were to look at those same movements occurring under existing conditions versus what's proposed right now, I think the proposal, even with those left turn lanes at that location, has the potential to be safer than the existing condition.
That's what I wanted to hear. And then last thing I think I have. Have you looked at all with the intersection at Sayre? Is that a place where we're going to need to start looking at a traffic light at some point, or that's okay for now?
Well, I've not looked at that from a standpoint of signal warrants.
Okay, that's fine.
But that's not an unreasonable thing to check on with IDOT as part of this process, so we can see what.
I'm not asking
what
for
the
one, I'm
volumes
asking
look like.
if you thought there was going to be a need for one.
Just based on casual observations of traffic on Sayre, I would say probably not.
That's the answer I wanted to hear.
Any other comments?
I've got a 6-part question. I'm kidding. Can we move on?
Yeah. I was just wondering, I know that we have a representative from Brewster Creek Shopping Center. If you'd, I think we could afford you a short, brief statement. I think you seem to want to say something. All right. I would appreciate that.
And while Dennis is getting ready, I think this is. I appreciate this information, but I doubt too many business owners are going to take their business plan from the United States Department of Transportation as far as how well it's going to impact their business.
I haven't seen that. In fact, all I've seen is the plan that's about this big. So, but just a couple comments. I mean, we are just adamantly opposed to losing the complete access on Stearns Road. It's been there for 24 years, and to my recollection, I don't even know if I can ever remember an accident on that. Mary, you had a great example when you said your wife drives in and then she drives back out. Now, I'm not asking for an answer here, but from what Brent described, do you really feel that she'd be safer coming down there, going back out on the 59, making a U-turn? I mean, I certainly don't think these people are safer. I met today with Jim and the police chief, and I asked on our Stearns Road exit, which has never been an issue for 24 years, how many accidents he thought were there in the last year. And they've all been fender benders, because I've never heard of a major accident there. But he said maybe 10. So, I mean, that's what we're looking at. Brent's use of the word, I don't think Brent could have ever talked that a length of time with me disagreeing with more of what he said. The use of the word user-friendly, I mean, it is clearly not anything. And we feel this is going to be a disaster from a financial impact study packed to the Brewster Creek. I'm just going to talk about Brewster Creek today. But I also want to quote, and I hope Jim don't get mad at me, but one time in the past we were talking about a little right turn lane out of the Walgreens parking lot, and Jim said, "Well, I really don't want that." And I said, "Well, it's going to be against the law. It's this wide. It's it's going to have a stop sign and everything else." And so, what Jim, we finally worked that out. But Jim's words were, they're still going to be coming in there the wrong direction, that they're going to ignore that. I mean, anybody that thinks that what's going to happen here is not going to increase the illegal traffic going down Norwood, going down Braintree, I think is really delusional. I mean, when you're sending people out on the 59, make left U-turns, and you can't get out of the center, you can't get into the center. I mean, they're going to be going down Norwood, going down Braintree. It's the traffic, and it's going to be illegal traffic. And there's also going to be much more legal traffic, because the people that live within the community will use those roads more than when I leave my house and I live in that community. I go to Walgreens or Stapler for coffee, and we go out on the Stearns and leave. I mean, I'll be going back through my own community again. So, I mean, just the people that live there are going to be increasing that traffic. But the illegal traffic, I think, will be incredible. Every one of our tenants will take a hit, we feel, a steep financial hit from the lack of access, and the lack of ability to leave, the risk they're going through, I feel, on this new plan. I mean, I have nothing to say about Route 59, but Stearns Road is a DuPage road, and we've never had an issue on traffic or accidents on our exit on Stearns Road, and it's just imperative and important to our shopping center.
Well, thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
I think it's been good. I just wanted to hear what you had to say since you had a...
Thank you, Dennis.
Is there any way, what is it, Kinder Care, what's the northeast? You've got the exit right now, what we have, and then you've got the Kinder Care, the Kitty Care, whatever, I don't know what it is. There's two that are there, one north, one south. And that parking lot's closed right there, isn't that, though? No.
The one to the parking lot to the south, that's not our Kinder Care. We own the one to the north. But that parking lot actually has an easement onto that Stearns Road exit, so they actually use the Stearns Road exit too.
Any way to connect, we pave the grass, and then they go further down, 90 feet down, and then they can turn left. That would solve everything.
It's certainly
everything the same. Then you make another easement that way, and then you direct them that way. I don't know if.
I mean, that's certainly 100 times superior to what's being presented at this point.
I think we need to move on. I think we've talked about this. We got other things we got to discuss, and unless IDOT has anything else or any other comments, I think we need to progress on from this. But thanks for your comments, Dennis, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
If there's any other brief questions, I
put it in an email.
Put it in an email. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, the Medical Cannabis Cultivation Center.
Oh, this should only take a minute.
Yeah. At this time, that we have the petitioner Ken Lehner, Elmhurst, Chicago Stone. Subject site is a portion of Lot 9B, Brewster Creek Business Park, and the request is a special use permit to the Medical Cannabis Cultivation Center. And I'm going to let Jim give us a little more description on this.
The village back in early when the state made the medical cannabis cultivation and dispensary law legal in Illinois, the village created a special use for those dispensaries and cultivation centers in accordance with the standards and the distance requirements in the state law, and made it a special use, and it turned out it was in our I-1 and I-2 EDA district. The village has been discussing, or staff has been discussing, the availability of certain property within the business park that meets the distance requirements laid out in the state law. And 4 companies have approached the owners of Elmhurst Chicago Stone, Mr. Lehner, to request and Mr. Lehner in turn is requesting a special use on approximately 10.5 acres in the business park on the south side of Brewster Creek Boulevard. If you were to put our cultivation center allowance area on the map, it would basically be just around this 10.5 acre site. And that's more than 2,500 feet from any residential district, and that's generally the characteristic that the state law requires. Each company has proposed a various size layout to Mr. Lehner. So the site plan, if you will, has 4 potential layouts. And just let me preface it, the special use from the village does not mean that it would be there. The companies still have to apply to the state for the state permit. One is going to be given in our state police district too. And we believe from what we hear there could be as many as 45 companies applying for one permit in this police district. But these 4 companies have approached Mr. Lehner One of them shows a 30,000 square foot building with associated parking. One of them is a 50,000 square foot building with associated parking. One's a 100,000 square foot building, and then the biggest one is a 200,000 square foot building with associated parking. They have not provided the normal detail you see in a site plan, which includes the landscaping and the engineering, site lighting and that, because it's somewhat on a speculation. The petitioner is requesting the special use permit for this footprint, and then any of those additional items that are normally required as building elevations, engineering, landscaping, those could all be conditions of the special use if granted. The owner has obtained various information. Just an example of what a building could look like. Generally, it's a big greenhouse. Floor plan layout. These are the growing cells within the building. There's also associated office and laboratory facilities within each proposal. And again, these companies have to go on and make their proposal to the state. The submittal for the state's application at this point, the end date is September 22nd. I think it's mid-September to the September 22nd. The owner of the business park is trying to accommodate the time frame that the companies desire to submit their application. It's our understanding that they have to have local zoning in place as part of their application, which is ranked on a point system. So building security, readiness of the facility, local zoning, those all come into play with their application to the state. So with that being said, the special use permit application is for this 10.5 acre piece of property. Depending on if it's granted, it would be granted for the whole cell of the whole corner or parcel. It's depending on if one of these companies get it, it would be designed and built, and the permit would be applied for based on which one would get the state permit. So at this time, that's an unknown, but they all four have to make application. As you can see, it's an expensive application to the state, expensive permit fee, and then the State Department of Agriculture with the state police, is my understanding, reviews each application. So that being said, Mr. Lehner is here. I'll try to answer any questions. And
Any questions from the board to either Jim or Ken?
So right now, this is, for lack of a better phrase, kind of a speculative permit application.
it is. That's a good way of saying it.
And I did have one question. Chief, I know we had quite a bit of information in our packet regarding security that the state requires, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. From a local law enforcement standpoint, what impact would a facility like this have on our police department, or do we have concerns about any of it, anything like that? Can you address that?
Well, obviously, I don't have any direct experiential knowledge over that other than to look to the state that has done it and has been doing it for a while, and out there they describe it as a complete non-issue.
Okay.
Would the whole area be fenced in? Even
They have to meet certain security requirements.
You can't get in there.
I would imagine that each one would put up a fence, but the security that we're reading about is in security cameras, as well as that whoever's in there with the product, they get security guards escorting them out to their truck and then loading. But I would imagine everybody would put up a fence. Our requirement, they're required to put up landscaping. They'd have to engineer the site too.
Will there be tours of that? I mean, I couldn't even say that with a straight face.
That I don't know.
Looking for free samples again.
A heck of a ribbon cutting, I'll tell you that.
I was told that the laws for Illinois, for this particular, there's 23 states now that have approved this medical. And I was told that the laws for the state of Illinois specifically are the strictest licensing laws in the country. Do we have knowledge of that?
I've just heard that is true, and because of our security requirements is primarily one of the reasons, and the screening of the applicant, and that's what I've heard too. I don't know. I've not read it anywhere, but I've heard that, whether it's been on a news story or just somebody speaking that.
All right, if there's no other questions?
Well, actually, I have a question,
right.
a couple of questions.
Very good.
There is a building elevation here, Jim. It's not marked in any other way other than received by Community Development August 8, 2014. Is that just one of the proposed buildings?
It's one of the examples of if one of those companies gets it, and I can't remember which one it is, but that's their proposed building elevation. Each company, we've only received information from a couple of the companies.
Okay. And do we know what the proposed signage would look like, or even have an idea if they would have, what type of signage they would be using?
I think this Illinois Organics, they didn't provide any signage on there.
Right.
On there, so I don't have any particular signage for them. The one company called Nirvana, I mean, I'm looking at that logo in the corner. That's my guess is that's what their sign would look like if they got chosen.
I mean, I understand that the medical marijuana law is very restrictive. I've looked at it extensively. I understand that there's a compassionate purpose behind the medical cannabis, but my concern here is more about the conditional use. We don't really have a lot of detail, and I guess I'm not really comfortable with moving forward because we have no real details. I mean, I understand that it's tentative because we don't even know why would the applicants spend money on building elevations if they don't get the permit from the state. And I understand that, but there's very little, if any, information presented to us.
That's why anything that we do would have to be conditioned upon our normal, typical building permit and site plan requirements.
But I think the devil's in the details when it comes to these conditional uses. So then what recourse do we have then if we approve this shell conditional use and then the details don't add up for us?
I don't think anybody's asking us to approve it.
Well, I'm asking the village attorney that question.
Oh.
In other words, do we get another bite at the apple?
The short answer, Brian.
Well, yeah.
Sure.
Sentences or less.
Okay. Yeah. You have the ability to add conditions, but you make a good point that, it would be conditioned on approval of building elevations. You won't have seen them other than perhaps this one, and I don't know which of the 4 possible layouts it matches up to. So it would be conditioned on the village's approval of that. If that satisfies the state in terms of that, whether that's zoning approval or not, but I would be inclined to make the condition such that you have to ultimately approve of those in the form of a second bite at the apple. Now, maybe that's too conditional. To satisfy the state requirements, but in brief terms, I gave you a memo that said our ability to regulate these facilities is somewhat limited based on state statutes. By the same token, with a special use permit, you have the ability to establish reasonable conditions, and therein lies the question. What are reasonable conditions when you don't have a lot of information? And so I addressed some of the issues relative to security, which to me is what most people would be most concerned with. And the state regulations, proposed rules, and there's actually some administrative rules, are very detailed. And that's what the village president, I think, was alluding to, and when he was talking to people, is there are very detailed rules relative to security and video cameras and feeding that to the police departments and things that would alleviate those types of concerns because of the detail that they have to meet as far as security goes. Now, in terms of the aesthetics, no. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know what the landscaping is going to look like. But those are conditions that you could say staff approval or maybe even subsequent board approval of, maybe at some point through the process with the Plan Commission, we see what an elevation is with each of the 4 potential options. Developers trying to get through the owner of the property and developer because they're trying to increase the odds for this piece to have 4 potential developers of this piece. So it's a broader spectrum of possible uses, and therefore not the kind of detail you're used to seeing when a special use comes before you. So I would envision there'll be a little more detail at the Plan Commission, and I would envision when they come back that an ordinance would be somewhat of a shell with conditions about if it's this many feet, it's this many parking spaces, and those types of things. So more conditions than you're accustomed to seeing because you're not seeing the drawings that depict the exact layout of parking and some of the things that you're accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, I think I understand you. So we can have a very conditional use.
Yep.
And I would anticipate that those conditions would all require the board to approve them. That would make sense.
One of the suggestions that might, since these guys then have to go on and apply to the state, that if one of them's chosen, that one of the conditions you put is that they also meet any of the design conditions that they gave to the state and what got their state approval, because they have to submit some of the building and security and that, so inherently so you're trusting the state's approval and then adding that to your conditions. But they're selecting 1 out of 40.
Because Springfield's done so much to earn our trust.
Well,
Right.
and Springfield doesn't care what it looks like. And I don't know in the industrial park as we care as much.
Is the arborist still here? No.
Ken's still here. Ken, you're asking?
Are they going to use a lot of water to grow these?
Oh.
Yeah.
They would use a lot of water. There'd be jobs created with each one. Yes.
I would just ask if this ever does go through, we just have a caveat that they cannot use Bartlett Gold or something like that as one of their brands.
All right. If there's no other questions or comments, then I would ask that move this on to the Plan Commission and the public hearing. I think that's what we need to do,
Yes,
right?
that's the direction. Thank you.
What was that, Jim?
Yes, that's the direction they're requesting is on the Plan Commission.
Okay. Any other direction?
Done, no.
That's what
Is that all you got, Mike?
That's it.
Thank you.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Kammer, second by Trustee Shipman. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Kammer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
We're adjourned.